What is up, guys? Welcome to a new podcast this week. This is the first time we've seen Sage Rosenfels and heard from him since before Christmas, I believe.
I think so. It's
You
been
had the
bad. It's been
NSYNC
like
guy on?
it's been 3 or 4 weeks in a row. I had Joe Mulvihill on
Yeah.
in sync. The other night last week in Omaha, Nebraska, looking to see what's going on, and Boys to Men, sure enough, is playing.
Did you go to
Gave
that?
gave a text to Joe. Get 2 tickets right in the middle in the fifth row.
Incredible. How was it? I
Sometimes you
have
get
friends
like
that went to that.
it's wonderful. If you're probably 35 to 55, somewhere in that mix. I mean, it's just all these like songs that for me, it was like middle school to high school, but definitely middle school dances at the community center it was Boys to Men. These slow,
Been there, done
where
that.
you dance and you put your hands on each other's waists and that's it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's sort
Yeah.
of like
No,
a zombie.
yeah. I'll make love to you. Little
Yes, yes.
down on bended knee action.
Um, yes, it was a great show. It's an old theater downtown Omaha, and it was packed. The place was full, and people were screaming, and they were throwing out roses, and tons of covers. They had a lot of covers.
Like what?
Eric Clapton, just songs they liked, or songs that there was a song that supposedly they turned down that turned into a number one country song like 6 months later or something. But just I don't know. They had about six various songs. It was a good show. They've been doing it for 31 years. And sometimes it's a little faster and sometimes it slows down. Sometimes you stand up and sometimes they're like, go ahead and everybody sit down. We're going to have like a conversation and each guy gets to talk about their career or about how it's been doing it for all these years and the fans and the trips and telling stories. It's sort of like an evening more than just like a concert, which is really enjoyable for us old folk.
That's cool. Yeah, I had a couple of friends who went to it, and they were like posting like Snapchats and stuff of it, and
Yeah.
it's interesting that, and it really makes you feel old. I mean, they probably have like grandkids, right? The Boys to Men.
No, I don't think so. I think those guys are probably, I don't know, but they're 48 and 50 maybe.
Oh, okay.
You know,
They're not that. They're
um,
wow. Because I'm
I mean, I'm
38. I don't.
44.
Okay,
I that's a good question. I don't know how
but you're
old they are.
technically you're old enough to be a grandpa.
Well, when I guess, I mean, technically, a 32-year-old's old enough to be a grandpa. Technically,
This is true. This is true.
but yeah, I'm glad I'm not. I hope I'm not for a while. So
For your sake, let's hope that as well. So you were in Miami. What are you going to the Super Bowl? Doing any of that stuff coming
might
up?
go to the Super. Yeah, I think I'm going to the Super Bowl. Every year I go to Miami. Almost every year. Last 2 years, parts of the Christmas break, I've gone down there. First one was during COVID, and it was like, wait, where can we go where we can sit outside, get a lot of fresh air, get some sun, and this COVID, everyone was just like locked down. So going to New York would be no fun or anything like that, right? So of course,
Mm-hmm.
Florida was quasi open at the time, and it was nice to be able to spend. I'm an outdoors person. Now we're getting to a different aspect of my life. I like the outdoors. If I could do like basically cook outdoors and hang out outdoors and have an outdoor sort of living room with the TV, I'd rather be outdoors all the time than indoors. I just sort of who I am. And so every year in the wintertime, as we all know, in the Midwest, it's hard to be outdoors. You go from your house to your garage to your car into wherever you're going, park, walk into the restaurant or walk into a job or whatever is back to car, back to house. And you're never really outdoors. And if you are, you're like walking your dog and it's 25 and windy out. And so I really sort of to refill my tanks, I need to get outdoors. And there's no better place in the United States, in my opinion, than going to Miami. It was 85 degrees one day. It was about 79 or 80 the other like 4 days I was there. Humid, get a little sweaty. It just makes me feel good. You can run on the beach, of course, just lay on the beach and people watch. I love the international
Yeah.
vibe to it, right?
Yeah, I get that.
You know, I did get to have some celebrity sightings, or I shouldn't say celebrity sort of dinners and lunches, which was interesting.
With who?
I had dinner with The Bachelor. That's just the Bachelor host,
Which
Mr. Jesse Palmer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got
and
it.
his wife. We all went out to dinner one night, and then Billy Corbin, that documentary director, met him for lunch.
Him on the podcast.
Met for lunch. Okay. We had a 3.5 hour lunch. It was called the Miami Yacht Club. I wasn't sure what it was going to be. I was like, man, am I have to dress up for this thing? It was not. It was like, you know, they pay $75 a month or something like that, and it was just like an easygoing, you know, get some cocktails and get some quesadillas and hang out by the water. We had a lot of fun. Billy Corbin probably talked for 3 hours of the 3.5 hour interview. He's so funny, and he just tells you story after story after story of things that are going on in Miami, or have gone in the past, mob things, corrupt. He's like a truth seeker and a truth teller. So he just loves he goes to sometimes these city commission meetings or the mayor things and finding the corruption in the system. And Miami is just full of it at all levels. And so it's just sort of the way they do business down there. Well, because it's sort of not really like the United States in a lot of ways. When you go, here's another thing I like, and I like to travel internationally. We can't always just it's not that easy to travel internationally. If you only got a couple of days. Miami makes me feel like I'm in a different country. When you walk on the beach, you go to a restaurant, you hear European voices, South American voices, American, English. But you hear languages from all people you can't tell. I have, what do you think that was? I think that was Scandinavia. It did sound like it was German. Like you don't know because it's just this destination, and mixed with that great weather. And I enjoy the food and
I hate their airport.
It's Miami Airport. It's not like
there's
it's not
so
Des Moines,
much walking.
Yeah. It's a big airport. I mean, it's a huge international airport.
It takes forever to get from one gate to another in Miami.
I think it was built a long time ago, and then they just kept adding to it, and so you just go further and further and further and further. You know, so
that makes sense.
It was not busy, but there's also a certain time of year, like people travel in the holidays. It's hard to travel in the holidays. Mid-January, there's nothing going on, right? So it's actually very easy to walk into a restaurant and get a reservation. Or the hotel rates are cheaper. So like mid-January, late January for all the listeners out there, it's a great time to travel, especially to Miami, because all that spring break and these other things that have going on, it's like the New Year winter holiday, and then there's spring break, and that spot in between is a great time to get down there.
Okay, yeah, I've never spent time in Miami. I've just flown through it on international flights whenever I'm going to South America or Mexico or
a Caribbean Classic or something.
Jamaica. Flown there. Yeah. It seems like an awesome town though. All right, let's talk a little football.
If you go there, you go to Miami sometime. Let me know. I'll send you some good spots.
You've got people down there, right? Does Zach Thomas, isn't he your buddy? Doesn't he still live down there?
Yeah, he lives up by Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. That's where Hassel's at. We got a whole group of people.
There's a lot of people more like north of Fort Lauderdale than down in Miami. I feel like the sort of like, Brady Quinn lives in Fort Lauderdale. The sort of the football world, a lot of them sort of live up there. Miami's not for everybody, so
yeah.
It's a good, but I have some friends out there, some old friends, and some friends that I've met like since I got done playing football, and I wasn't there, but I've met since just from going down there. So it's enjoyable to, I feel like I'm busy the whole time.
All right. So you did some good stuff on Brock Purdy. Man, that was over a month ago. Here he is with a guy who you know very well, Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy is, I don't want to say led San Francisco to the NFC Championship game, but he's certainly been an integral part of it when you're taking the snaps.
Yeah.
Did you think, when Brock was 3-0 with that team, did you think that this was possible? Are you surprised? Give me your analysis on where the 49ers are. Just basically a 3-point underdog to get to the Super Bowl.
So it's interesting when people are saying, well, he's got the number one defense, which is true. He's got great weapons around him, which is true.
Yeah.
He's got a great coach and play caller, which is true. That all is true. He's had games he's thrown for like 350 yards.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I don't know if I had 12 starts. I don't think I had a 300-yard game. I may have had one. It's hard. It's so it's not like they're not relying on him. His accuracy is phenomenal. I think that's his best thing is he doesn't miss. He hits guys in the chest a lot. They do those slow motion replays and he hits Kittle over the middle and they're not up high and they're not down low. For the most part, they're just boom right in his chest. And that's what always impressed me at Iowa State. And that's what I'm seeing now. But I think he's playing great football. I think I feel like I saw this when he was at Iowa State. I do. When he was in Ames, he was in shotgun a lot, and he's in shotgun a lot now. Mm-hmm. But they get rid of the ball fast. The NFL is a different game, and so everything is get rid of the ball fast because those defenders. I mean, it's like 2.5 seconds is like the throw time in an NFL game now for the guys who are getting rid of it and are good, and they get rid of the ball fast, but they're these short under slants. A quick shallow, a quick crossing route that is gets it out of his hands fast. He got great left tackle, but Brock is I feel like making really good decisions. He's seeing the defense. He really did. I was talking to Travis Hines today. He's writing an article for the Des Moines Register. I don't know if you could draw up a better formula for him to have success. Right. Really like luck, like there, I don't know what's luck, but I got to see him play for 3.5 years and got to know him a little bit and worked with him a little bit when he was in college. We had like one video session, and then for his agent to contact me and say, hey, we want to work with you, and to have that film session. And for me, when I talk about football, I don't, to high school kids, college kids, I don't talk about Kevin Gilbride's system. I don't talk about Norv Turner's system. I don't talk about Brian Schottenheimer's system, my rookie year. I talk about Kyle Shanahan's system. Mm-hmm. And right now that allows me, when I talk about his system and the Gary Kubiak system, when I watch film on him, but I know it gives the guys I work with a much bigger chance to then, I mean, I don't know, half the teams now are using various forms of this system and the various wording and the various language, right? The Rams, Green Bay, Atlanta, Miami, Seattle, Denver last year, of course, but all of these, and there's more. The Jets, who had a LaFleur, they let him go, but because my job is to try to get them to make the team and have an opportunity. Well, if I can get them to learn the most common language over what I look at as the best young coaches that are going to be around for a long time, that would give Brock the best opportunity, I think, to be successful. So I think for him to hear those words from me and how I was saying double right close, and that's a nasty split, and this is an over front and under front, and this is what they call this, is what they call this. But those are the words I use that Kyle Shanahan taught me. When a DB bails, you have a defensive back over a wide receiver, and he's the outside guy, and you see him sort of bump press and then bailing and then turning his hips and looking to everybody. Do you know what the DB is taught there? What the rule is? 21-man rule. Your job is to see all 21 men on the field. So you're going to open up your hips and you got to try to see everybody. That is your job. Very few quarterbacks get to like learn this defensive terminology. Kyle Shanahan did. He learned it from Monty Kiffin in Tampa. So when we would sit in our meetings, we would learn all this sort of like defensive terminology, what the defense is thinking, and even how their techniques are and what they're looking at, rather than just like, well, this is cover 4 and this is cover 2 and this is whatever. So I like to think that when we had those sessions of just talking ball for probably 15 hours, that when he went into those meetings, those quarterback combine meetings and then whatever meetings he had, the various teams. Brian Greasy played for Gary Kubiak and Mike Shanahan in Denver.
This is all your tree. This is what's interesting.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's sort of wild to me.
Because I remember even like when we were just friends before Brock played there, like you always talk about Kubiak and Shanahan.
Yeah,
like, those are your guys. And now Brock.
I played for five franchises. All right. When I was with Gary Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur, my last year in Houston, without a doubt, of the 5 in the 12 years I played, the 5 teams, without a doubt, I felt the most comfortable, and I knew what the hell I was doing, and I had answers, and things were sort of black and white, and I would get big completions. And the bootleg stuff, which I loved at Iowa State. You remember when you were a kid watching me, we ran a lot of bootlegs and Dan McCarney's.
I just remember you handing it off. You didn't.
No, I did. Well, there's handoff, and then after they've tackled Darren 15 times in a row, like, hey, maybe we should
sprinkle in a pass
defense,
here.
Sprinkle in a
8-yard dump to the tight end.
Because if no one's open, maybe Sage can run it. He's not that good of a thrower, so. He'll at least protect the football, we hope,
I've had an interesting just insight on it because I remember everything you've said and kind of taught me in our nights talking football, where I just kind of try and be a sponge and learn from you. And it just like it kind of seems like it's fallen into place, like you said, like borderline luck for Brock to end up in this spot. So, because let me ask you this, let's put it another way. A team that I love is the Minnesota Vikings. You have a deep history with that franchise. I know you watch them a lot. Kevin O'Connell's system, everything going, like, how would Brock play for that franchise? How would he be doing for the Bears? And the reason I say that is, I mean, a lot of times, like, fit is a huge deal. Maybe if Carson Wentz is drafted somewhere else, he has a better career, right? Like, how much of that plays into it? And then Brock always has the ability. My analysis on him is I always thought he'd be George Niang because he's a great teammate, really smart, film room guy. Everybody loves him. He'll stick around for 10 years, even if it's an emergency quarterback or whatever. I always thought. Now, Niang has exceeded that in the NBA because he's gotten better. But I don't know, like, how much of this is the fit? Because now especially Iowa fans, we are Iowa everywhere, liking to jab at Brock, like, he's got Kittle and he's got McCaffrey and Dabo Sweet. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess what I'm looking at is like long term for Brock. How do you see him fitting in the league?
I think he's going to play for 15 years.
Yeah, that's what I like. For what does San Francisco do? Do you just at this guy? Even if he just gets you to the NFC title game, you can't really dump him, right?
There's very few quarterbacks. I mean, maybe it's not 15, maybe it is. But there's very few quarterbacks out there who have won 7 games in a row. There's very few.
For any team in any system.
Any team in any system in the history of the NFL. I don't know. You could probably, there might be 20 or 30, but, it's hard to win 7 games in a row. There's a couple teams that do it. I think like 3 teams have won 8 games in a row this year, like the Eagles, obviously San Francisco. I think they've won 11 in a row or 10 in a row or something like that. So I don't know what the numbers are, but I think that this looks, he can play in all these other systems. His accuracy is his accuracy. He's not just going to become inaccurate. If anything, I think he's going to become a better thrower. I think he's become a stronger thrower, and his arm strength will get stronger. And it'll be a little bit less of the sort of the dink and the dunk and the things that they have him doing. But I just see him getting better and better. I think he's going to get better and better. His footwork is pretty dang good for a guy who didn't do a lot of play action stuff and they didn't do a lot of bootleg stuff at Iowa State. And he doesn't miss a lot of throws. That's the thing. If you don't miss a lot of throws and you're a good athlete, I mean, there's just not a lot of – Kirk Cousins doesn't miss a ton of throws either, but he's just not a good athlete. So, like, he might have a stronger arm, but he's not a good athlete. And so being a good athlete it's a huge helper. It's a huge help. So if Brock Purdy was in the 49ers, or not the 49ers, the Vikings system, I think the Vikings would have been better. That's what I think. I think the Vikings would have been better. At the end of the game, in that last game that they lost, when push came to shove, the second to last drive, they threw two screens. They didn't work. Screens are like the easiest pass play for a quarterback. So they're making you right. So they're protecting Cousins. And then the next series, they go 3 down. The next series, on the 2 plays they needed it most, he wasn't as accurate as he needed to be. And on the final play, he needed to make a play. And they ran the exact same coverage. And they doubled Jefferson and played man everywhere else. And the first one, he read it right, and the throw, which would need to be in front of KJ Osborne, and it was right, sort of more almost on his chest, and the guy got a hand on it. But when the guy you snaps the ball, they had the same route on both sides. He had Anthony on the left side. He's wide open. He's the one-on-one. They're running this coverage a lot. A lot of teams, when you have a star player, there's 4 rushers, there's a free safety, so that's 5. So you have 6 other guys to guard 5. So you can double one of them, or just have one guy hang out in the middle and basically spy on any breaking route, right? That's sort of how like man-to-man coverage works. And they do a 5-man rush. It's straight up man-to-man. So right, things all change when you blitz somebody. So it becomes this like numbers game. And anyway, the play they had on, he gets the ball and he goes right to Jefferson, who's doubled. He has the one. So as a veteran quarterback, you have to like pick the right side. You have to find the one-on-one guy. And Jefferson, he could have thrown it to him, and he would have had an opportunity to probably make that catch. But he would have been squeezed. It would have been doubled. He would have ran him off somebody and go over it.
Yeah.
But the other thing was that his tight end, Hawkinson, he's chipping and just sort of running a check down route. All right. Well, that doesn't beat man-to-man coverage. It's 4th and 8. So if you're not going to throw it to Jefferson, you can't throw it to the guy who's just going to be guy hanging out right on him, or who's just going to get tackled. Is what happened. You have to make a play. Sometimes in football, the quarterback just has to make plays, and only so many can really do it. Right? Mahomes does it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen does it his fair share, but you have to have the ability to. It's 4th and 8. I'm not going to check it down to a guy who's completely covered at 2 yards. And Brock can do that. This is what I'm trying to say. Is Brock has that what Kirk Cousins doesn't,
and he has the
and maybe some other
squeeze.
And he has the guts to do it.
Yeah,
he has the guts to do it. And I don't know. I'm excited for his career to see what happens. I don't know. Maybe he plays 2 years, and that's the end of it. But I really doubt it. I think he's going to have a good run here. And he put himself. He's in a great position. He's, we'll see how he plays in this title game. But holy cow, it's been quite the ride. I think for people from the state of Iowa and Iowa State, and of course Chandler, Arizona, down there, to see this kid who's just so likable. He's such an easy guy to root for, and you can just tell the 49ers players love him. You can tell that over there
very early on.
Yeah.
Like what they were saying.
Brock has, I don't know if
honestly, the whole big cock Brock thing is a perfect example though. It's funny, but I mean, you've been in locker rooms, like, for them all to, if they didn't like him, if they didn't believe in him, they wouldn't be making those type of statements so early on. This wasn't after he was 7-0.
Yeah.
He came out and relieved Garoppolo and then won his next game. And you could tell. And the other thing too is, like, if you look at The Athletic, did a really good piece on Shanahan and play calling with Garoppolo. Like, this is the same guy whose quarterback completed 8 passes to go to the NFC Championship game like a year ago.
Oh, right? by the way, so if you want to compare Garoppolo to Brock, all right, and we know Garoppolo has some $25 million seasons. I don't know how much money he has made, so I'm sort of put some perspective of where Brock's future may be. But Brock's a better thrower, more accurate than Garoppolo. Misses throws, and he's also not mobile at all. So who's the better quarterback, right? Brock Brock's a better quarterback, in my opinion, than Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo misses throws. And again, more importantly, you just can't do almost anything with him in like the boot game, or if the play is broken down, he's not going to run around like Brock for 5 yards. He just isn't. And it's a huge helper to have a quarterback that can add that value to the quarterback position.
All right, hold that thought. I want to encourage everybody, if you're going to be betting on the games coming up this weekend, to download the Circus Sports Iowa app. Promise you won't regret it. People ask me, what do you mean, Williams, when you say you get better odds? I'll tell you why, because they're not going to rip you off on the juice. It's because you go to some of these other sports books. Oh, we've got all these promotions. Well, they're getting you back because they're trying to charge you 118, right? 18% on your bet. You don't get that from Circa. I promise. Download the app. You won't regret it. If it's college basketball you're betting on, if it's the NFL, and they're a great sponsor of what we're doing here at Iowa Everywhere. So I've been pounding this for 5 years now, Sage, and I feel like watching Brock and watching Jalen Hurts is a really good example that you can win in the NFL without the mega star quarterback. For the longest time is, you got to find your Mahomes. You got to find your Josh Allen. You got to find your Joe Burrow. And my whole thing, being a Vikings fan, I've always I don't trust my organization to find that guy. They're not going to. Maybe but they're not. So I'd rather, if you can get that guy in the second round, like Jalen Hurts, or in this case Brock, and you can get that rookie contract, or even let's say, I have no idea if you could win with a Marcus Mariota $10 million a year, as opposed to paying a guy like Kirk Cousins 35, or the better example, Dak Prescott making 40. We just saw him go up against Brock. Look at this roster you can put around him. So my question is, if you're Sage Rosenfels, general manager of an NFL team, I guess what would you rather have, a Kirk Cousins at 35? Where
No.
He's the 10th best guy, or we know we're not going to be a quarterback. Okay.
No, I want one of two things. I want, of course, Patrick Mahomes. That's who I want.
That's really hard to do.
Yeah,
is my point.
Okay, so you're looking for that, or a Joe Burrow, or you're looking for one of those 5 guys. I don't know, 8 guys, whatever it might be.
Even Rodgers at this point in his career, I don't think he's worth it at this point.
No, he's not. But so anyway, so you're looking for that guy. If you don't have that guy, I'd rather go cheap and save the $30 million or $35 or $40 million in the salary cap and draft somebody in the second round, the third. I would draft a couple guys, second round, third round, fourth round, try to get guys in there, even first round. Even first rounders are cheap compared to $35 and $45 million. Because this strategy is very, very real in the NFL. And I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I feel like so many Super Bowls in a row, they've had a quarterback on his rookie salary in most of them, on one of the rookie pay scale, Goff. Right. So there's this big advantage of having this. Russell Wilson had that situation, right? When Kaepernick, he was in that situation. When you have a cheap quarterback, all right, you can increase your roster significantly better. Depth, one, but also pay more superstars at other positions when you have that cheap quarterback. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about what capital you have and what resources you have. And if you can have a good offensive coordinator, but build this awesome team around them, I think with a good coordinator, you can, you'll be dominant on defense, and you'll have these good other players on offense that quarterback just has to get the ball to and sort of do his job, and doesn't have to be a miracle worker. And I think that's where, San Francisco is there. They still have sort of expensive quarterbacks. They have 3 in the roster, and Jimmy's not that cheap, but they're still cheaper than $45 million. They might have they're spending half of that. I'm not sure what Trey Lance is making, but Brock's like what 900,000 or something. So San Francisco is getting some of that, but I would love to go with trying to find some young guy and then build this roster around him. I wrote an article years ago when I first got out of the league. I was writing for a website called like The Score, and it was during that sort of Kaepernick, Russell Wilson era when it's like, man, two young guys, and it was always go get that veteran quarterback, go get that veteran quarterback, and rather than going, how about you go young and cheap and build your roster? And like if you were a GM and just said, hey, every year we're just gonna have young quarterbacks, we're just never gonna pay them unless we actually get like that Patrick Mahomes or that guy who we think is significantly special. Never pay, and we're just gonna have like younger guys, first, second, third year, who are serviceable. And they can sort of be interchangeable. We're going to have a well-coached offense, but then have this loaded roster around them and just play that game. And then you hit on a Jalen Hurts or a guy like Goff who is good enough to get your team to the Super Bowl. And I think it's a lot of GMs think about that as to why I don't think it makes any sense for the Vikings to pay Kirk Cousins that much money. I mean, if you looked at where all the quarterbacks are in the league and stats and sort of how good they are, yeah, his money is probably not that crazy because there's a lot of guys who are making more than him now at this point. But what's the point if you don't think he's going to be the guy to bring to the next level and bring you to the Super Bowl? It's been 10 years now, and it is what it is. Like, why not just get rid of that and get a younger, cheaper player and load up that team? Go get a whole bunch of defensive guys, free agency, start whatever it might be, but load up the rest of the roster and then go try to find a Brock Purdy out there.
It's fascinating. All right, before we go, I do want to get your quick analysis and picks on these two games. I'll be honest, I got onto Circa Sports Iowa Sunday night immediately following that game. I bet the Eagles at 1.5, and then I actually got the Bengals as an underdog. Now they're a favorite. They're probably going to be a 3-point favorite, I would guess, at kickoff. I feel a little bit like I'm on the square side of that bet a little bit, but Sage, it's just from what you know about Mahomes' injury, it's just feels like the Bengals just are this. They walk in and they're just dropping middle fingers to everybody, and they like being on the road, and they got the Chiefs number, and now Mahomes is hobbled, and they haven't exactly been, by their standards, that impressive this year. I don't know. I feel like
the Bengals the second half of the year have been one of the best teams in the league.
And the Chiefs have not been impressive is what I mean.
The Chiefs have not. And Mahomes, there's Tom Brady hurts his ankle, and it's like, well, Tom Brady hurt his ankle, but like, what's the difference, right? If Kirk Cousins hurts his ankle, as long as he can drop and move around a little bit, that's as good as he normally is, right? But when Pat Mahomes does it, they have so many plays in Kansas City that are off schedule. That sometimes are big plays, but third downs and Mahomes' mobility is a huge asset to that football team, and that concerns me. And the fact that I do think the Bengals are an extremely hot football team. They've got a chip on their shoulder. They've been there. I just love the way Burrow is playing. They've got 3 or 4 really good wide receivers in their running game, defense. They have all the elements to it, and I think a really good head coach. And so I like Cincinnati in that football game. I want to say San Francisco is going to win this game, but man, Philly is really good. They are really good. But they haven't been playing great late either. They had a couple games at the end of the season that they lost. They played a Giants team, a win that they needed to get the number 1 seed, and they barely beat the Giants. And the Giants had played most of their backups in the game because they didn't need it in week, 18, I guess they call it now. So the Eagles have not been playing great football either. I do think Jalen Hurts makes the Eagles a better football team. I think he's phenomenal. And but I don't know. San Francisco's defense is really, really good. And
do you worry about Brock in that environment at all? It's just it's different. It's different than anything But I feel like every week we're like, he hasn't played a defense like the Cowboys, and like, he's got to go on the road to Oakland.
And the Cowboys defended him well. I mean, they didn't score 35 points or anything, but Philly's got a good defense. Playing in, I'm just like trying to imagine. I'm just trying to imagine as a rookie going to Philadelphia
Those
in
people
the
are
NFC Championship
horrible.
game. In that stadium, I was there earlier for that Vikings game this year, but just in that stadium, in that environment, in the cold weather, man, if he can, Mike Silver's a friend of mine. I had him on the podcast, and he writes
Yeah.
for the San Francisco Chronicle. So I said to him after week one, when Brock came, I said he's going to win the Super Bowl, and you're going to have to write a book about him, because he wrote Kurt Warner's book that became the American Underdog movie. So we'll see if Brock can do that. But I mean, I don't know if there's a cooler place that as this story, this sort of dream story continues, to go to Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game and win, to go to the Super Bowl in his hometown. I mean, this feels as magical as the Kurt Warner story, for sure.
Kind of feels too. It's like, I don't know, if San Francisco, whoever comes out, I don't feel like the Super Bowl is going to be a very big point spread either way. So it's kind of like, if you get there, at worst case, it's like a toss up.
Yeah.
To win the damn thing for
these games anymore. You remember back in the day, there used to be like blowouts.
Every year, the Super Bowl was a blowout.
Used to be like, when I was a kid, I feel like I was like, oh, Broncos are playing somebody. Broncos got blown out. No one's even watching this.
Those Cowboys teams would drop like 50.
Yeah.
Like.
Steve Young they played the Chargers, Junior Seau, first Super Bowl, and they dropped, I don't know how many points in that game. So, but these games now, it seems like are usually not those divisional games. Sometimes you get a blowout, and there were some blowouts in those games. Some teams are completely exhausted. They barely got into the playoffs. They get a wild card win like Jacksonville, and there's just like nothing left in the tank. But these championship games have generally been, unless the Vikings are in them, but generally really close. And I would think with San Francisco,
doesn't even hurt me anymore.
I would think with San Francisco's defense that this game will be close too.
I hope so. The Aaron at Circa texted me something like it's been like 20 years or something like that since both AFC and NFC Championship games, the favorite, it's smaller than a field goal or something like that. And it's been crazy because of the Mahomes injury to watch that line. There were some books that opened with the Bengals as a 3-point underdog, and they're probably going to close as a 3-point favorite. That's a 6-point swing for an NFL championship game, which is crazy.
It's a very valuable angle.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I want to be on the right side of that. And even if I lose the bet, it's like, okay, but I would be so pissed at myself if I'm putting my money on Mahomes' ankle and he can't roll out, he can't run, he can't do anything.
Yeah.
He was literally hopping around on one leg.
Yeah.
In the second, and that's Jacksonville. Like this
and that's Jacksonville, and that's
Bengals are a different deal.
A team that some barely got to the playoffs. And you're just worn out, and the other team's on a bye. It's not really a fair game. And Kansas City, of course, won that one, which is the better football team. But Mahomes' ankle made a big difference in that game, and I'm sure he'll be healthier. But that was a bad injury, and those high ankle sprains, they basically sort of almost cast up your leg sometimes. And so you just don't have the mobility that you had before, even if it didn't hurt, which you probably won't feel anything, whatever it's going to take to get rid of that pain. But your leg, your foot, your ankle, it just won't work. It just won't work no matter what you feel it or not. So that's my concern, is his mobility is so important to his quarterback play.
We'll see. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I hope that your 15-year Brock Purdy prediction is spot on.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Well, it's just, and it makes Sunday so much more fun when you have that. It's like having another favorite team, Like I told our staff at Cyclone Fanatic, I'm like, we need to cover this like it's an Iowa State game. People are that into it.
I mean, it's interesting, I feel like when like David Montgomery went to the Bears, and it's like you sort of become a little bit of Bears fan because, he was It's different when it's a running back or a quarterback or someone
Yeah, the ball.
marquee player. Brees Young this year, I think a lot of Iowa people are like, well, let's watch those Jets games. And Iowa State fans are so good with that. You had Iowa State fans watching Tyrese Halliburton playing the NBA, and these guys that aren't playing for local teams just because they love the players so much when they're names, and they follow them into their NFL career because there's not 10 of them every year, like at Alabama or Ohio State or something like that. So
even Iowa fans they had so many pros for so long, it got hard to follow them all, which is a good problem. We haven't had that luxury. We had you and Seneca, and it was like in Jordan Karstens for a while, right?
It's like, Reggie Hayward and
Reggie Hayward. Yep.
James Reed had a great career, but there were guys that didn't play for super long, but we also didn't have guys who were Rookie of the Year candidates, and things like that. So
in theory, Iowa State could have had 2 finalists, probably would have if Brees wouldn't have gotten hurt, which is just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely crazy. And then it was nice to see the tight end Kohler get in at the end of the season. It sounded like he was injured a lot of the year, but got in at the end of the year and made a few catches. So it's nice to have some tape that rookie year and have some success and get into that offseason, get healthy, and go into that sophomore year. That's going to be a big year for him.
All right, brother. We'll do something before the Super Bowl again, I'm sure, and then we'll have an announcement coming up about your show here in the next week or so. Looking forward to it. Thanks to Sage Rosenfels. We will be back. We've got 2 guys named Chris coming up tomorrow morning at 8:30. I know Jordan and Jabo have another, not Jordan and Jabo, that would be Jared and Jabo. They've got another show coming up this week where they will do reaction to Iowa State's win last night over Kansas State, Iowa with the road trip to Michigan State. We got a lot going on here at Iowa Everywhere. Thanks for listening, guys.